Hey, welcome back to the Big Ranch Show. Thank you for joining me. Now, over the years, we've discussed a number of topics on this channel. One of the main things that we've talked about is LGBTQ rights, and specifically the rights of trans youth and the protections of trans youth. Back during the Obama administration, things were put into place to protect children in schools. That was overturned by the previous administration before it ever even got a chance to get going. But we have more problems. The bathroom bills and things like that are not gone. In fact, there are two bills right now, one that was introduced to the Texas legislative session and one in Montana, aimed at taking away health care and ensuring protections for children in our public schools. Now, I'm sure it's not long until here in Oklahoma we have something of the same. But the fact is, these are arcane and asinine things that they're trying to do. Every child deserves a safe place to go to school. Every child deserves to be able to go to school, learn, and not worry about if they can go to the restroom or not. But beyond school, in Montana's bill, it actually bans doctors from even considering providing things such as puberty blockers to prevent puberty from beginning for whichever gender. This isn't saying that they have to be male, female, whatever. It just allows them to not go through a puberty of the gender they don't identify. That's for doctors and their psychiatrists to figure, and psychologists and stuff to figure out. That's not for us to decide. That's for their doctor, mental health professionals to decide whether or not this child needs to progress with transition. It infuriates me that to this day we are still having to fight for the protection of these children. Let me repeat that. We are having to fight for the protection of children. I don't care about your personal views. I don't care about your personal beliefs. I do care about protecting children. I do care about kids being safe and feeling like they can be who they are. They should be free to do as they choose. People don't just decide they're trans overnight. These kids know from an early age. They know that something's not right, that they don't feel right in their body. They know it. Just like a kid that knows they're different, that they know they're gay or lesbian or whatever, right? It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what your religion says. What matters is everyone is safe and equal under the law. And then the whole trans issue, I don't understand the problem people have. Is it really that hard to understand that somebody isn't safe or doesn't feel like themselves? Is it really that hard to understand? Is it really that hard to understand that children need to be protected? Are you really that dense? I'm at my wit's end on this stuff. It's hard to keep sitting here over and over again with the same topic. But over and over again, people are attacking these children. and attacking trans people in general. We seem to have an epidemic of trans people ending up dead just simply because they're trans. And a majority of those trans individuals that are ending up dead are African American. But we're not doing anything about it. Think about it. Just think about it for a minute. Your child is murdered simply because of who they are, regardless of their gender or orientation. Say your kid is murdered because they're a fan of a certain football team, or because of their chosen profession. Could you imagine, though, as well, if cisgender people were being murdered simply for being cisgender? Could you imagine? Could you imagine the outrage, the uproar? And then imagine again the outrage and the uproar if that was a cisgender white male. Then all of a sudden, all hell would break loose. And people would be losing their minds, screaming that we're not doing something about it. But since these are transgender African American people who are ending up being murdered simply for being transgender, being bullied in schools, being beat up, and worse, LGBT kids, they face higher instances of suicide, bullying, and sexual assault than a lot of the larger population. And yes, it goes all the way down to grade school. You should say, oh no, that doesn't happen, but it does. I cover so many stories on this channel, and you don't even want to think of the stuff that I don't cover here on the Big Rant Show. But I see some terrible cases, some terrible stories. And you've seen the stories that I've brought to you here on this channel. So just think about the ones that I don't. But people, we have to protect the kids. You QAnon folks out there are all avid about save the children, hashtag save the children. But you won't lift a finger to protect the lives and safety of trans youth in this country. You think your religious views are the only things that matter. That the lives of these children don't matter. And I'm not just talking to those of you whose kids aren't transgender or LGBT. I'm talking to those parents whose kids are, who disown their children as well. I know a lot of people who have lost their families simply for coming out. It makes it impossible for people to really be who they are because they are scared to death that they'll lose everything that they love. So do you think it's easy for a kid in school, in K through 12 somewhere, to say that they're LGBT, come out to their parents or come out to their friends? I have an adult friend whose family basically disowned him simply because he came out when he was like, I think he's somewhere in his 30s. And I get it. I get it. People in certain areas of the country are more prone to being homophobic and hateful. And that's sad. Where I'm from, Maybank, Texas, Yeah. It's a very bigoted, backwards area sometimes with some of the people. Most of the people aren't like that. But unfortunately, a good number are. And they literally just throw their children on the streets if their kid so much as plays with a doll, let alone be gay. But those stories are repeated daily in this country. You can go through YouTube and see all the videos of people that have come out to their parents who are told to get the fuck out of their house. That stuff has got to stop. We've got to protect LGBT children. We have got to protect trans youth. We need to protect everybody in this country. Everybody deserves to be alive and be safe. No one deserves to be hurt or harmed or kept from going to the bathroom simply because of who they are. Next week, we'll have another discussion over this, but it'll have to do with trans youth and school sports. Anyways, this has been the Big Rant Show. I've been your host, Jacob Keck, and I'll see you down the road.